You know what they say, another Friday, another two things I gotta choose between. Nobody fucking says that. Hey, welcome to This vs. That. That thing on the internet where I'm the judge, and you're the lawyers who are trying to convince me of which thing is the worst. I have to remain impartial, but I already have a good idea of who's going to jail today. Last week on This vs. That, I embarrassed myself by talking about memes. Go watch it. This week on This vs. That, we're gonna take a look at what's worse, the 1990s or the 2000s, the zero zeros, the 90s and the zeros. Before I give my opening statements, we're gonna throw to something we haven't thrown to in a while. My decade expert. Time is relative, and the measurements are just arbitrary. I've studied time and decades my whole life, and I can't find a point. But if I could find a gun, I'd end it. Great points as usual from that guy. Ah, the 90s. Back when Nickelodeon's motto was, somebody's gonna watch it. You wanna fucking bet? Look, I'm not gonna lie. The zero zeros have been a disappointment. That first of all, they didn't bring in the dawn of flying cars that everybody talked about in the 80s. And second of all, it didn't begin with bringing in the new apocalypse. That was also supposed to happen. Seems like 2000s are making a lot of checks that their butts can't cash. Whereas everybody from the 90s, for some reason, strangely believes that nobody will ever understand the 90s. It's a super secret thing between everybody in the 90s. Like nobody's got the fucking internet and can Google cat dog or the good Rugrats before they added in that stupid extra little baby. The 90s had the big hair that was left over from the 80s, a lot of flashy shapes and colors, and things were just simpler back then. But what they didn't have was a toilet that connects to Wi-Fi. Or Wi-Fi. Or anything worth checking out on the internet. The 90s were a time where people wore what people wear now, but for serious. They wore what they wore because that's what they had to wear. Everything was ironic before it was even ironic. I'm just gonna say this out loud. If you believe that your childhood could be ruined by somebody, Michael Bay, making a movie that you're not gonna see, but you're totally gonna see it, maybe your childhood wasn't that great. If that's all it takes to ruin it, it might not have been that good. So, you know what? I asked you guys what you thought was worse. Here's what you had to say. The 2000s are worse. There were so many reboots of things. Did you hear about the reboot of Reboot? What happened to that? The 2000s are worse because of Twilight movies. Okay, alright. The double zeros are worse because that's when phone addiction started. That's right, technology is making people assholes. And now that we have those, like, hoverboard things, the Segways without handles, now everybody's an asshole and they don't have to walk. The 2000s are worse because I was a kid in the 90s. I didn't have to be an adult in the 90s. The 90s were better because they had better movies, TV shows, kids' toys, and there was none of this, everybody's gonna hurt themselves business. I agree. Everybody's become a wuss. The 90s are worse because everybody and their grandpas are claiming to be 90s babies. Look, the way I see it is, if you don't remember the day that The Mask was released onto VHS, you're not a 90s kid. The 2000s are worse because they're nothing like what the futuristic movies told us they would be. I feel fucking lied to. The 90s are worse because I can't look back on them without being terrified about what we thought was cool. You mean like when people used to wear one solid color but their shirts had like every shape you could think of and like 14 that you've never seen before? And Bill Cosby with his sweaters? The 2000s are worse because that's when the 2000 big-ass glasses were invented. Look, in their defense, I'm sure these didn't just pop up overnight. I bet they had this planned for years and years and years to make, like, the year glasses. But, you know, nothing in the 1990s would fit on your face and function as glasses without making you look like you had some kind of syndrome. The 90s are worse because you could get a pizza at McDonald's. That's like ordering a burger from Taco Bell. You know what? I'm not even going to dignify that with a response, because I had that every day after school. The only troubling thing about that is that they didn't have a pizza oven back there to cook these things. So, well, what were they making it out of, and how were they cooking it? It's a mystery that man itself has been trying to figure out since 1994. I'll tell you what they're cooking it in. Their ass. I did have one every day after school, and look at me now. Look at all of this right here. The 90s. Frosted Tips. Need I say more? Well, let me stop you right there with a quick counterpoint. Guy Fieri. Need I show you more pictures? I do? The 2000s are worse because that's when all the stupid reality shows on MTV started, and Nickelodeon was much better. I will give you that. Nickelodeon has gone way downhill, and it might be because I'm getting older, but it also might be because every Nickelodeon show now is a live-action, teen kids doing something, and every episode they make a fucking joke about Canada. I get it. Yeah, ha 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 ha. Our bacon is different. Oh ho 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 ho. Oh, great material, Nickelodeon. Kids shows used to be great. The first episode of Rocko's Modern Life, his dog rapes a mop. Watch it. The dog rapes a mop in a closet. And I'm pretty sure you see jizz. Everybody says the 90s because people won't shut up about it. But here's the thing. Nobody was nostalgic about the 90s until the 2000s. So, really, they're worse. I'm gonna be the guy who says the 90s are worse because you didn't have a computer or a phone or a YouTube or an internet or a technology or a blah 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 blah. But we wouldn't be able to bitch about how bad our time is without any of this new technology. The 90s were crazier because World War II. That's a direct quote from a 9-year-old. I'm not even concerned with his lack of knowledge about history. I'm more concerned that somebody's bringing their 9-year-old to a daycare. That's too old for a daycare. Is there something wrong with them? The 90s had what people like to call the dark age of cinema, and the 2000s had all the crappy MTV reality shows, but both had Pokemon. Why do you hate Pokemon? Well, let me tell you, young man, I hate Pokemon because after the first 150, they stopped trying. Are you gonna look at this and tell me that somebody really tried on that? I really hope they didn't bruise their knuckle when they scraped the bottom of the barrel coming up with this gem. The 2000s, because 9/11 and twerking and fuckboys and iPads. I agree, twerking is as bad, if not worse, than 9/11. Alright, I've made my decision. I'm gonna say the 2000s are worse, because I didn't like growing up very much. And if you know anything about anything, the older the time is, the more you grow. The more you grow, the sadder you become. So that's why the 90s will always be right here. Or here. Or here. Wherever my goddamn heart is. So if you want to get your say in on the next This First That, follow me on Facebook and Twitter because I always ask there. And if you've got a great idea you want us to debate out here on the internet, leave it in the comment below, and if it gets the most likes and goes to the top, I'm more likely to do it. Alright, I'll see you guys on Sunday for a frequently asked junk. You're just mad that I woke you up. This is the face of not giving a fuck about shit.